Hello and welcome to my tutorials. In this tutorials we're going to take this image portraits that we're creating from bridge. We're going to import inside the camera raw, where we're going to adjust to have it a little bit more flat on some shadow highlights, and I'm going to take you to the process retouching to create this final image for our process, so we can go see what steps I was taking and how we can retouch portraits to creating somewhat painting-alike look or artistic view, my view on the portrait. Let's go ahead and start working on this image. After selecting photo that we want to edit, we'll go to open from Adobe Bridge by double time click, and as well open in Camera Raw. So in Camera Raw we have a few steps we want to do. First, before we go any way forward, I want to be sure that we set to 16-bit channel depth, and the reason I want to use this so our gradients will be more smoother and we don't have it any stepping or any fringing or other effects on the color gradients mostly. So we'll go to Adobe RGB space, and I'm using 16-bit channel. Let's go ahead, click OK on this. Next, we're going to lens correction, and for this specifically, I want just enable remove chromatic abbreviation. We also can enable profile correction, and you can see in some lenses it will try to adjust dimension, everything. However, as an artist, you always look and see how does it look correct to you. So for me, I think this way is what I want to do without any profile correction, so straight as I'm saying right now. Next, we're going to the tab with details, and our sharpness will be sure the radius set to 1, and we'll set to about 75, around 80% amount. This has helped me to restore some of the sharpness that may lost inside the camera, because I shot this on a Canon 5D Mark III, which is have it in-camera anti-aliasing applied. And by increasing sharpness, I'm trying to restore some of the information or blurriness was applied in the camera. Before you do this, be sure it's to camera specifically as well, some of those settings. If you have some newest Canons or some Nikons or other ones which does not have a pass filter, then you maybe want to reduce some amount of sharpness. The best way to look, if you come closer on the skin, and you'll increase sharpness too much, you will see this noise start coming up. So it's probably gone too far. I say if you're going around 70, between 50, 80, it's very good area to stay. So we'll go ahead, restore our sharpness. Next, we're going inside the main tab, basic settings, and I want to take my highlights and bring them down. It will take some of those over bright and tone them down. We do introduce some flatness, and we'll look at next how we can fix those flatness. As well, we introduce some problem with the skin that is actually benefit. In some cases, we can fix this easy. Again, you can see right there we added. We'll take a little bit increase in shadow, but be careful when you do this. Mostly, if you look on an image and we're introducing, you can see how much noise introducing. So we'll be probably just maybe 5, very low add on the shadows. Now we're going inside HSL adjustments, luminosity, and right here top reds and orange. So we want to take orange, and you can see as we're modifying, we increase a little bit those highlights on the skin. So in this way, we can restore some of the dimensions of the highlights without overblowing on the white. So, and again, I'm just bring a little bit up this one, and as well a little bit on the red. Also in saturations, if you have some problem with your skins, by taking saturations on a red little bit down, you can see we can slightly adjust and fix some of those brightness. So we'll just bring a little bit. Again, try to avoid some extreme changes, and we'll of course fix this stuff inside the Photoshop as well. Okay, when we're done with this, it's probably about all. We're going to open image. Again, if you prefer work with Smart Object, you can hold down Shift button, click Open Object. I found no reason for me to use Smart Object on this case, and we will have it non-destructive editing going forward, but how I say we have this original image here. So now we have our image open. First, let's touch up and remove some of those skin imperfections. I will leave it most of them in because I think skin imperfection is what make the image perfect. It's make a real person. But however, some of those may be a little bit distracting on the eye to draw attention, and those is what I want to work on. We'll go create new layer. Just let's go ahead and name this layer as well. I'm going to switch this to the yellow color so I know this is my retouching layer. And we're going to use it on the retouching layer. We'll go with our healing brush. Spot healing brush will introduce some fuzziness to the texture. As example, if we're going closer and we'll use it, you'll notice it is have a little bit loose of texture. However, if we're going to using healing brush, it will use it on the back end, similar to give frequency separation effect. So it will take area, analyze the under there and apply it. So, but for this, we actually need sample areas. If I sample area around here, I can go and you can see we still restore some of this texture back, which is what we're going to use. Most of it I'm going to fix some blemish, like right here we have a little bit red veins, so we'll just go use some of this. And I'm doing this, I'm sure your sampling, it says current and below. If it does not work, you probably just set on current level. So we want to be sure we set on current and below. You can also have it all layers, but sometimes maybe you have some adjustments above and maybe confusing. However, current and below or all levels at this case will work just fine. Okay, so let's go ahead, adjusting a few things here. I say I don't want to touch all of them. I'm just going to go right here, just adjustment a little bit. And mostly right where we have a little bit reddish color. You can see the texture, sometimes not necessarily accurate when you're sampling in right areas. And usually using Alt key to click sample and paste it. So I'm going closer and I sample. If you see the duplicates like right there, a little bit in texture, we'll just override them. Okay, right there, a few more. I say I don't want to replace too many imperfections. I just want to take a few of the a little bit down. Okay. Let's adjust here. Zoom out. And also you notice on my navigator, on my right side, I have the same image, so I can go through the image, but also it's give me overview of my entire photo, which is kind of nice because I can see what's going wrong. And I think right here, yeah, okay, just was brush also. And then next, so we'll go to fix, remove a couple of this redness effects. But let's leave it the hair there. Let's give it a little bit messiness, which is good. And one pop-up around there. Okay, I think we kind of clean up. We could spend a little bit more time to remove a little bit more redness, but I think overall it's will already adjustments work much better. So let's bring closer and look before and after. Before and after. Okay, after this layer, let's go next. We can adjust a couple of adjustments to apply overall. It is smoothness on the skin, and with this technique, smoothness of the skin, we need to be careful because we don't want to create total plastic, but it does help to bring some of the polished look to this. To do this, we actually press Control Shift Alt E or Command Option Shift E on a Mac, which is create new layer for us. And this layer, let's go switch this maybe to the blue color so we know, and it will be smoothness. To do this, we'll go to filter now, noise, and we'll use dust and scratches. Value for the radius is depend on your image overall. When this image look like this, like painting, then I think I'm on a right track. I don't want to have it too blurry. However, it may work in some cases, but some closer to the paint, when I don't see small details on the skin, it's all look all small, but same I still recognize, that is probably a good level for me to do. Next, we're going down below and click on creating mask. So we added mask to our smoothness. Of course, you can always just create a mask by hold down key, alt key, and click, and this will, okay, let me do again. Let's delete it. This one, mask, and this will create inverse mask, or you can create mask and Command or Control I to inverse. But what we want to do is create black mask, which is make all this layer transparent that we just modified. Next, we're going to use a brush, and our brush, I want to use it soft round. I want to use the opacity 10, flow 100, smooth 0. And with these settings, now I'm going to brush slightly in a mask layer selected. I'm going to brush over the skin, mostly on the face, which does reduce some details, but it's make skin a little bit smoother. Again, it is more effect for the painting. Okay, and I'll show you in a second how it will look. Okay, so let's go right here. Usually I will have a cheek, nose, forehead, neck, some of those, and if we have hands, we can do hands and other elements, maybe stomach. The reason is I want sharp on eyes, hair, brows, and we can see before and after. You can see we just smooth out some of this to give it a little bit more paint effect to this. Okay, if we look on our mask, and let's go click just on the mask. So right here is our mask, and you can see some areas we avoided. We could also select mask, go to filter, blur, and blur, and just add little bit smoothness on our mask. Just smooth if your brush not was very harsh or other effect. If you're using bicom pad, you don't necessarily need set opacity to 10. You can control with a pressure. So this is the first step. Next, I want to add some dodge and burn. So we'll add some dimension to this. To create this, we create new layer. Let's call it just dodge and burn, and we'll go to edit, fill, and we'll fill this 50% gray, normal mode, 100% opacity. Let's go ahead, click OK, and switch this to the soft light. Soft light blending allowed us to add darkers and shadows on the same level. You could do same effect with more dramatic by using multiply or screen mode, black and white color, but in this case, soft light with the gradients will work just fine. Can be using soft brush, and I want to use it black for the first, opacity 10, same as we had before, and start painting in some of those shadows to enhance or create additional depth to our portraits. Here I'm going to just add a little bit highlights on the side. Again, we'll switch later to the white. And if you're using shortcuts on your keyboard, you can press X, and X, you'll notice on your paint, it will switch between foreground and background color. So in this case, you can very fast switch to create highlights. Maybe emphasize some highlights in areas, don't overdo with them. Again, we'll switch to the black, leave it depth to the lips. Okay, let's go X on the white. We'll add slightly highlights to the face. Sometimes you can see a little bit overdone, so we'll bring tone down some of those elements. Okay, let's go zoom out. And also I want to add a little bit darker right here on the bottom of the short. It's mostly just vignetting. We'll do this more later with multiply mode, but for now, I just want a little bit take down here. Okay, I think at this point look okay. So let's go ahead. Next, work on a hair, and first we want to bring in contrast on the eyes and the hair. So for this, I'm going to create curve. So we'll go highlights for this. Okay, let's go to green on this one, and I want to switch this to the overlay blend mode, and we'll take and bring kind of like almost right here our curve. So we'll bring a bit brighter. So what I want to do is create this nice, like this curve. Okay, same, because we created it's have was already masked. We need press Control or Command I, which inverts to the black and make this transparent. Now we need to remove transparency in some areas, and we'll start to do this with a white brush in our eyes. So if we go closer and we'll look, you can see it's bring a bit nicer coloring to this, to the eyes. You can see how the picture, like, let's look closer on this eye. Okay, and we can see before and after. You can see we reduce kind of dullness, make them shine a little bit better. Again, be careful what you do with some of this, because we can make look very weird. But if you've done too much and you want to tone down, you have the opacity, so we can use the opacity to bring the eyes brighter or a little bit less. Okay, on a hair, same things. We'll just use a brush, and in some areas where we see highlights, we'll just add a little bit more on those highlights. Okay, so right here we have it before and after. So the eyes may be glowing too much, so let's go bring down to 60 about. Yep, I think this is better. Okay, so we're done with the highlights. Let's go work on a hair. So same, Control Shift Alt E or Command Option Alt E, and we'll create new layer. We'll call this hair. And I just to make clean up a little bit hair by going to the filters. We'll go to stylize, and let's use the oil paint. So in oil paint, I want to be sure my stylization 10, clearness 10, scale 0.1, brush bristle detail 0. So we'll go OK, and you can see we have a nice, beautiful now painting effect. We don't need to apply everywhere, because you can see on the faces, but in some areas it's actually applied very good. If we want to increase contrast, add a little bit more, we can go to filter, sharpness, and make unsharp mask on this as well. So let's bring a little bit higher, maybe around about 150. Click OK. And next same, we'll go to create another mask. So again, revert to the black. So you can do this by hold Option or Alt key and click on a mask, or when you create it, highlight the mask and press Alt or Command I to invert. Okay, Control I, sorry. Right here we'll take our brush with white color selected, and we'll start painting in on a hair. So what it does, it will clean up a little bit our hair to make it a little bit smoother, because in a hair we have a small micro contrast area, and this tool will allow us to remove those micro contrast to creating more texturing in, so the hair look more as a paint. You could also, if you wanted, add slightly to the facial hair, but again be careful because it will affect skin. We don't want to do too much, but we could add a little bit to the hair to create its string. Okay, let's increase size of the brush and paint more right around here. Okay, we'll apply a little bit on the sides here. Let's add on the side. Okay, and let's go from the top a little bit. Okay, at this point, let's zoom out and we'll have hair before and after. So you can see how we added a little bit more painting effect, and it's what we're going. Retouching. In some cases, if you do portraits, corporate or other ones, you may be one step away for creating this and leave it hair as this. But in this case, I'm going more for arts kind of look. So I'm going to enable this hair. Okay, at this point, I want to add some what I call global dodge and burn, just a little bit bring more effect to this. Again, we'll create a new layer by combining everything together. And we're going to, let's call this global dodge and burn. Actually, this should be gray. And colors is not necessary. Colors, you can preset what you wanted. I just create for myself, so easy to recognize. Okay, we created a new layer by combining all visible layers together. And again, it's Shift, Control, Alt, E on the PC and Command, Option, Shift, E on a Mac. Okay, next we'll go to Image, Adjustments, and we'll go to Black and White. In black and white mode, we're going to use that red and yellow as our primarily because I want to bring skin tone. So we'll take this one color, we'll bring lighter, and we'll bring also yellow. So those is important. Because we're going to use after apply soft light to this layer, we know everything below 50% will get it darker and above get it brighter. So that's what we're going. But right now, if we switch, it will be quite a bit dramatic effect. So example, if we switch, you can see it's quite a bit harsh. So all what I want it is change by going adjustments, shadow highlights, and we'll just set more to neutral. So we'll take our shadows and our highlights and bring to 100. If you don't see this, probably because your show more options is unchecked. Be sure you check show more options to expand all these properties. Also amount of radius, let's say 11. You can put a 10, I just press 11 because it's closer, just press double. And now I can bring a little bit tone down on the shadows a little bit lower and highlights maybe just slightly up. Okay, when we're done with this, we'll switch this to soft light. And you can see before and after we add quite a bit more highlights and depth to this. Again, if it's too strong, like I think it is now, I'll take down to about 30%. So you just add a little bit more details. This tool is work very good if we look on a texture. For example, all materials. You can see how it is bring before and after. Clarify, bring all this clarity to textile or other things. So same as a hair. Okay, let's go set back. So next I want to add some global shadows. Before I do this, let me take my cropping tool and I want just verify that I maybe want to bring a little bit closer to his face. Maybe around here. Just cut off a little bit, bring more attention to the eye by bringing them to our golden ray shows. We could actually bring almost to the edge, and it's maybe actually this one is even look a little bit better if we do this way. So probably just bring a little bit more on a line, and I want to cut slightly on the side to bring in a triangle. So right here, just look. Okay, what do we have it before and after? So again, I like this ratio, and because of that, we maybe even cut just slightly closer to this. Around like right here. So okay, there you go. So we apply a little bit more focus to his face, to the eyes, and it's optional adjustment. But I want to do this before actually I make adjustments on the shadows. To do this, we'll select global shadows, we'll go to multiply mode, and with a black brush, very low, 10% or less, we can start brushing in some shadows right around here. Just bring a little bit more attention. So let's create a new layer. and another global dodge and burn. And again, we'll fill up this one as well with 50% gray normal. This is our another one, so same like we did before, only except doing on a face, we're going to do this global all over places, switch to the white, and just bring a little bit white just around his face, just slightly. So almost like focus on his eyes coming on a face. Okay, next step, let's add some color correction to this. And we'll do this by going and select drop down, going click curves. We'll go switch curves to the color mode. So if we modify the color correction, this will apply only to the color without any changes saturation. And we'll take our blue channel select, bring shadows on the blue up. We'll go in the middle, it's mid-tones, bring them down. So let's create this cold, warm kind of combination, complementary colors. And we'll go now with the red, and let's switch just a little bit to the cyanish color, so a little bit greenish, and restore red back to our original line. So right here we'll have it before and after. You can see just add a little bit of this kind of art cinematic look with coloring gradients. Okay, let's do one more layer, curve, and we'll switch to luminosity at this point. And we'll take bottom, and you can create even more wash out, more retro look if you bring shadows down and highlights a little bit lower. And overall we can play a little bit contrast. The problem is now we start a little bit working with the saturation. So to reduce some saturation, let's go down, select our dodge and burn we create before two adjustment layers, and we'll go select black and white. So it's will creating our black and white just below our images. On a black and white, we'll just take red, just bring a bit down red and yellow. You can see how it's add details to the face, the texture. And at this point, we'll take our opacity and start moving slightly to remove that heavy saturation. So I think maybe about 30% will be working better. Before and after, we just tone down some of the saturations and bring a little bit more texture coloring inside there. Okay, again, if you don't like this kind of washout look, remember we can bring slightly down. So we'll have it darker. And here we go, we have our image that we retouch inside the Photoshop and creating somewhat paint portraits look for our image. In combination of tutorials, this is most processes what I do for the models as well when I'm going to compositing them in some scenery, so it will be do same things. Thank you for watching this tutorial.